Well, good evening, everyone. It is another special program we got for you tonight. I keep trying to dream up all the best I can for you to keep you involved and knowing what's going on, sharing with you what the Word of God has, and sharing with you with things I think that can help make your life so much the better. Tonight, I am excited to have with us a special guest, or actually three special guests we're going to have because a part of what I believe the Lord has called me to do is to shepherd his flock. And that's the flock at the Guiding Light Church. But I also believe that God has called me to shepherd whoever will, because when he says in scripture that whosoever believeth should not perish. I believe that what God has called me to do is not just to guiding light, but to the kingdom of God. And with the kingdom of God, I want to share with you what God has revealed to me and share with you other godly men and share with you godly men and women that are also have a responsibility to the community. I'm not just called to one place, I'm called to his kingdom. And I want to introduce to you other men and women of God that are called to the kingdom of God. Tonight, we're going to be talking to I guess it's called honorable, um, but we're going to be talking to the DA, the Jefferson County District Attorney Danny Carr, who's doing a wonderful job in being a district attorney for the county of Jefferson. He's a great man. He's a godly man, and I want to do all I can to let you know that we need to have godly leadership. The Bible says that when the righteous in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked in authority, the people mourn. I want you to know the people that are serving you. Many of them think that that you serve them, but they serve at your pleasure. And this man we're going to talk to tonight, DA Danny Carr, he is a man I've talked to, and I find he's a godly man. And we want to have godly people to reign over us, or that are in authority over us. I'm going to bring him on in just a few minutes, but I also have two other gentlemen. I'm going to bring on Pastor Michael Edwards, and you're going to see him in just a moment, and then we're going to bring on Father Mitch Pacwa, because these are brothers that I work with. And one of the things that the gatekeepers are going to do, and I'm going to be working with other people um, that are in government, because God is revealed in Scripture that a lying spirit has plagued humanity, and that's been since the beginning of time, by masquerading as truth. This lying spirit has used deceptive words to enslave humanity by believing lies over reality. Luring millions to believe evil is good, this lying spirit has had people commit heinous crimes of cruelty without remorse. What we're going to be doing tonight, we're going to bring to light some things that are happening in this world by talking with the uh, uh, Jefferson County District Attorney. Help to know the truth so that you will be aware of what's going on, and help you become knowledgeable about what your district attorney's office is doing to bring truth so that you might know what he is doing and what is going on in our community. We will be talking with him and hearing what he has to share with us. And I think what you're going to find out is you're going to see a man that understands the commandments of God, who is a virtuous man and uses wisdom in order to conduct his office. So, what I'm going to invite all of you to do, go let other friends know that this is going to be a night you're going to hear from a person who is the district attorney of Jefferson County, and how he is conducting himself in that office, so that you might know who your DA is and come to know what he does and what you can expect from that office. We're going to reason together with mutual respect and understand that God has called all of us to serve. A part of a program we're going to be doing with the gatekeepers is going to be one called Rhetoric versus Reality. And we're going to share that with you in the future. But tonight, what I want to do is, I guess I'll bring on, before I bring on our main guest, I want to bring on the other two pastors so that you can get a chance to meet them. And then we'll bring on our guest, and then we'll just greet him. And if you have questions, please enter the questions, because the DA's office, he's the one that can put you in jail. He is the one that decides whether he's going to put you in jail or put you under the jail. So you need to know this man. So look at him when he gets on there. And then when you get arrested for whatever it is that you might do, for driving or whatever, you'll know the DA, and you can call him up and say, look, I know Danny Carr. And call him up, and he can use his discretion and decides not to put you under the jail, even if he has to put you in the jail. But first of all, we're going to bring to the stream of Pastor Michael Edwards. And Pastor Edwards, how are you, brother? It is good to see you right now, and good to have you on. This is the Monday Night Live. Say hello to everybody, Pastor. Just greet them.
Hello, everyone, man. Glad to be here. Bishop, thank you for always advancing the kingdom of God and being involved in the governmental realm and allowing me an opportunity to be a part of such an amazing movement and being consistent, man. I know you're a general in God's army in the kingdom, man, and what you do is definitely a blessing to the people of God. And I'm looking forward to meeting and talking with Danny Carr. He's been doing a great job in the city, man. My hat goes off to him, and I'm expecting many more great things to come out of that, man. Like you said, he is a godly man, and I'm just excited, man. So thank you so much, Bishop, for allowing me the opportunity to be with you tonight.
Well, I'm glad to have a person. I mean, we need godly people. We have to hold our legislators, our servants. They're servants with us, and we have to work together for the community. And we have to get the information. Danny Carr has some wonderful information he's going to share with us tonight. That's why I'm giving people time. I'm not greeting everyone tonight, but I'm giving you time to go tell everybody. I have this broadcasting on 5 different places tonight, because it's so important that we know what's going on in our government. And we know, because there's an election coming up next year, and we need to know who to elect. Now, adding to the stream, Father Mitch Pacwa. Okay, Father Mitch, there you are there. And you know, if you have you got a laptop, or is this a desktop you're dealing with?
Desktop.
It's a desktop. Oh, I just wanted folks to be able to see your collar. I can't see your collar.
Oh, okay. Wait a second here.
Yeah, fix that up,
fix
Father
that
Mitch.
camera.
There you go. Now I want everybody to know.
See me.
Okay, well, just get it straight there so they can know that if you just slide back a little bit, we don't want to cut your eyes off there.
Yeah, I know. I don't want you to see the whole mess in my office either.
Well, that's okay.
See, this is one of the disadvantages of not being married.
No, that is
not a woman to make me clean up. My mom is dead.
Well, that's right, Father Mitch. I guess for everybody needs to know, Father, he is with EWTN radio, and I was telling Brother Danny Carr just a minute ago that you connect with how many people on your television program, Father Mitch?
Like our TV shows get to 400 million homes around the world, and we have almost 600 radio stations globally, 350 in the United States, and the rest are throughout the rest of the world, plus our internet access. We have a variety of platforms. You can go to EWTN.com and see all the different ways to connect on Facebook and YouTube and all that.
So wait a minute. Did you say 400 million homes to get into?
Yes.
Okay, well, you make us look like nothing down here, just a little.
No, I don't. I just make you look like you're local. And all politics is local.
Well, it is. And well, what I'm going to do, I mean, you know, I want everybody to know we got somebody that got an audience that can reach up to 400 million people. And now we're going to bring in Brother Danny Carr, DA Danny Carr. I need to get his official name, District Attorney Danny Carr of Jefferson County, that doesn't have 400 million people in it, but he makes decisions for how many folk? Maybe just a mere 200,000 people, but he's a man here. We're bringing him in, and District Attorney Danny Carr. good to have you with us tonight. You're the man of the night, and we're going to let you talk. And then as we go along, I've got these two good brothers with us. And this is a beginning of a program, like I said, I want to establish that we're going to do to keep the public aware of what's going on. Mr. DA, I've got your presentation ready to roll too. And you just talk to the people and greet them and whatever you want to say. You got the program tonight.
Well, let me say again, since protocol has been established already, let me first say, Bishop, again, it's always good to see you, Bishop. I appreciate, obviously, your leadership, your encouragement, and your guidance, and your spiritual guidance as well. So let me say that first and foremost. And again, I'm glad to be back here speaking with you again. I think we did this
a month ago.
A couple of weeks ago, maybe.
It was actually a month ago, bro.
A month ago. So I'm glad to be back having a part two. That means I did something right. I'm back again having a part two. So I'm glad to that. And Father Mitch, thank you, obviously, as well. And when you said 400 million, man, I got a little nervous there. I'm like, wow, I need to put a little
don't be nervous.
Powder on. I mean, 400 million. That's a lot of people.
It really is. It's more than the United States, isn't it?
Oh Lord,
no, it's not 100 million people, 400 million homes.
Homes, okay.
And you multiply that by 4.
Right.
So it's somewhere closer to 1.6 billion.
I'm about to say that's even worse. That's even worse.
My goodness. Well,
but here's the thing. I've seen you on stage, Mr. Carr. I've seen you before. And you just say what you got to say because you got to say it. You're not there to win fans. So
that's right.
Let's hear from you.
That's right.
All right.
And let me also say, Pastor, it was again good to see you, brother. I appreciate you and your work in the ministry and the God Life family who is on here. Obviously, I thank you for tuning in. First off, let me say that just to give some background, a lot of people don't know what the district attorney does, number one. And oftentimes they only find out when they're sitting in the back of a courtroom or sitting outside of a police precinct or trying to find out what happened to a loved one or trying to figure out what's going to happen to someone that's been charged with a crime. And then that conversation evolves into who the DA is and what the DA does. And I tell people oftentimes that as a general rule, the district attorney's job, fundamental job, is, in the grand scheme of things, is to hold people accountable for the criminal acts that they commit. But I look at mine a little differently. I look at it as a bifurcated position, meaning that you hold people accountable for the criminal acts that they commit based on the degree of what that act is. But at the same time, you make sure that the innocent doesn't suffer. So in other words, you make sure that the innocent doesn't suffer, but the guilty doesn't go free. And go free don't mean just going to jail. It just means accountability. And that accountability can evolve in several different ways. And from my vantage point, and being a Birmingham native, being from the Inslee community, being raised by a single parent, I understand the difficulties that some people in our communities encounter. And I also understand some difficult decisions that people have to make as well. I believe that good people make dumb decisions sometimes and make bad decisions. But I also believe that, knowledge is power, and understanding and realizing the ramifications of your actions on the front end is very important, because the discretion that the district attorney has is valid and it is widespread. However, that discretion is narrow in scope depending on what kind of act you commit. So I often tell people all the time, and I tell young people, and if you have a family member here today who have someone young who's listening to this, I always tell young people, before you pick up that gun and do something to change your life or change your family's life or change that victim's life, think 10 seconds. Just sit and think for a second, because once you pull that trigger, your life changes forever. So I try to make sure I impart that on every young person I talk to, or I run into. Just make sure you think 10 seconds before you decide to do something that's going to change your life, the community's life, and your family's life forever. So with that, Bishop, we can get started if that's okay.
Sure. Let's go right into what we can do. I'm going to start off with your presentation, and you
Great.
can go as quickly through this as you'd
Great.
like.
Yeah.
We did talk about some of it before, but
And
I'll follow your directions as we
I'll
go.
move quickly on the first part because we did go through some of it. Yeah, you can fill that all in. Now, this first slide talks about felony warrants issued. And why is this important? And why is this slide important? It's because I want people to see the gravity of the cases that we handle here. This office here in Jefferson County, the Birmingham Division, is the largest office in the state. We have 120 employees, but out of that, 45 are lawyers. So if you can see the numbers there, how many felony warrants that are issued and handled through the court system per year by this office. And if you mirror that and look at the homicides that we actually issue warrants on and handle, is astronomical in a sense that, let me give you an idea. It takes a homicide about 18 months to 2 years to get to court as far as a trial. And if you can imagine, we only have 8 circuit judges where trials are heard. So just imagine how long it takes for, as you can see, in 2019, 86 homicides that were charged. How long it would take 86 homicides to infiltrate and filter through the court system. So again, if you mirror that 8,000 plus the 86, not to count the 15,000 misdemeanor cases we handle on top of these a year, it's a lot of work being done down here in Jefferson County. And all these cases either are handled by plea agreement or by a trial. But either way, they're disposed of in 1 of 3 ways: guilty plea, trial, or dismissal.
Okay.
Yeah, go to the next one. Now, real quick, grand jury. No person in the state of Alabama can be tried by a jury without first being indicted. That's important for people to know. Let me say that again. No person can be tried by a jury in Alabama without first being indicted. What do I mean by that? That means that 18 people in secrecy will hear the facts of your case and decide to render a true bill, meaning we think probable cause exists, or a no bill, meaning we don't think probable cause exists. But it does not have to be unanimous. At least 12 of those people say, yes, we agree with the facts, it should move forward. That's all it takes. But here's the key to this slide, and most importantly, we're the only jurisdiction that have 13 grand jury sessions a year, and we're the only jurisdiction that hears about 300 to 350 cases each session. A session lasts 1 week. So we do 300 cases in a week, 13 times a year, in order to keep our grand jury moving. And again, whether it's 1 pill in a car, which is possession of a controlled substance, or capital murder, each one of them have to go through the grand jury in order to be tried by a jury. So that's the most important thing. You have to be indicted first. I mean, if you're not indicted, that case goes away forever. Next slide. Here's an important one. Here's an important one. And to me, in my mind, one of the most important ones are the first 2 slides. The reason I put this slide in, again, is to educate our community. And this is important because there's a drug epidemic out there that we've known about. We've known about opioid crisis and all this stuff. But here's a new animal, per se, that's kind of walking through our communities and our neighborhoods and our homes and all our schools and all these places. It's called fentanyl. And I want you to pay attention to the drug epidemic because every day you hear on the news, there's a saying in the media, if it bleeds, it leads. There's always breaking news, so-and-so been shot. Breaking news, so-and-so been killed. But there's never breaking news, so-and-so was killed by fentanyl. If you look at this chart in 2019, 95 deaths as it relates to fentanyl being the source. But look at 2020, 190 deaths. Look at that percentage on the right. 100 percentile increase. 100%. Now, if you go down one in the first quarter of 2020, there were 34 deaths in the first quarter relating to fentanyl. But look at the second quarter first quarter in 2021, 77, which again, I'm not a math major, but that's a plus 126 percentile change increase. And just for our number's sake, on the last one at the bottom, where it says black males, 40 to 49 in 2019, 51 deaths. All right. But look at 2020, 100. That's almost 100 percentile change again in deaths from the age group of 40 to 49. Why is that? I don't know. But these numbers don't lie. And this drug is killing people. And let me tell you this. Fentanyl is not detectable. You can't just smell it per se to know that someone has fentanyl on them, but they're lacing it with this drug in marijuana, heroin, pills, cocaine. So for people who smoke marijuana, which is commonly done, if you get marijuana that has fentanyl on it, you will die in OD unless you have what's called Narcan available. Unless you have Narcan available. And if you don't have Narcan available, you will OD.
Listen, what I'd like to share with the people that are listening in right now, I want to encourage every one of you to go ahead, let your friends know, get on the phone, call somebody right now. Everybody needs to hear what the DA is telling us here. And I want you to get your questions together. We're going to hold the questions. I'm going to even hold the team of the pastors and Father Mitch to let him go through most of his document. Please take notes. This fentanyl epidemic that we seem to have here is kind of hidden by the epidemic we're talking about, COVID. But those numbers that are on the screen there, they are screaming at us when you look at 100% increase and increasing in the first quarter of 2021. And I'm sure the numbers are getting even higher, up 126%. People are dying out there and they don't know. Sometimes, as he mentioned, you got to look just some weed, you're smoking weed, but if it's been treated with fentanyl, it'll kill you. But go ahead, let everyone know. Call your cousins, your nephews, your nieces. Let them know they need to hear it. It's very few times we get a chance to hear a man that's in government coming before you like this, ready to address questions you have. Get your questions, hold on to them. We're going to let him finish talking, but I just wanted you to know this is the time we talk with the DA. We're getting the information. We're blessed to be able to have a man that'll come before us like this who will share the information. Okay, Mr. Attorney, District Attorney right now, go ahead. We go on to the next slide if you desire.
Yes, the next slide. Let me just say one more thing about fentanyl, just so you know. You don't have to be smoking it. If you get marijuana and you're going to take it home and you buy it off the street and it's laced with fentanyl and you have it in your pocket or whatever, and you're driving home, you can OD just in that manner alone. So just be very leery of that. And I think we just had a Major League Baseball player, I think that I saw on ESPN that died and the source was fentanyl. So I just want everybody to be aware of this drug fentanyl and tell your young people, tell people in his class, tell his friends, tell everybody, make sure that they know that this fentanyl is killing people each and every day. Thank you, Bishop. We'll go to the next one. Okay. This is one, and I'll go quick, but this is the Sexual Assault Kit Initiative that was instituted. And as you see on this slide, we do an inventory. We have a multidisciplinary team. We do crime analysis, investigative support, and specialized prosecution. Now, the next slide, Bishop, will be more telling. So what have we learned? The Sexual Assault Kit Initiative, here's what it is. It is an initiative, a grant that we obtained that allowed us to go back and inventory rape kits. That's what people call them, rape kits. And what we found, if you look on this slide, 4,999 sexual assault kits in storage in 21 evidence rooms throughout Jefferson County, meaning they're stored in Birmingham PD evidence room, Jefferson County Sheriff Department evidence room, Hoover PD evidence room, Mountain Brook evidence room. But as you see, there were out of the 4,999, we found 3,876 unsubmitted sexual assault kits. And when we found those kits, what we did was we took them and we wanted to inventory all of those kits. And as you can see, 625 sexual assault kits have been submitted thus far. And here's why: because we can only do 25 at a time to the Department of Forensic Sciences because they only have so many people. So we're going to do 25 at a time. But at this point, 625 have been submitted out of 3,876. 245 reports were returned, and we've actually profiled 150 DNA profiles from offenders out of these kits. And we're talking about cold cases. We're talking about cases that may have never been exposed. And out of that, we've actually got 76 CODIS hits, and I can talk to you about that later, but 54 offender hits, meaning we know who the source of the hair, the semen, or whatever is. And some of these cases, we were able to make cases based off of this kit initiative that allowed us to go back and inventory all of the kits that were never unsubmitted and bring some closure and justice to survivors of sexual assault. And let me also end with, on this slide with this, is that we actually were able to identify 3 serial rapists here in Jefferson County through our One Place Family Justice Center, which you'll hear about in a minute, as it relates in conjunction with this sexual assault kit initiative.
Well, you know, I hate to jump in there, but you said we had 3 serial rapists in Jefferson County?
We did, yes, sir. We did, Bishop.
Okay.
And we were able to identify them based on the profile of the kits and based on the fact that their DNA profile continued to pop up in other unsubmitted kits as well.
Okay. I said I wouldn't ask questions, but we'll go on. Okay.
And I, as previously stated, One Place Family Justice Center. This is our family justice center that serves victims of domestic violence and sexual assaults. Here's what's unique about this place, this location, is that generally what used to happen is a victim of a rape or sexual assault would have to tell the police at the scene. They would have to tell the detective again. They would have to tell their family member. They would have to tell the prosecutor. They would have to tell the court. They have to keep telling it over and over again, re-victimizing themselves and reliving it. So we had one victim who just, I guess, out of sheer desperation said, why can't we just do this in one place? Henceforth, now we have One Place. And this location, we provide everything under one roof. We have a YWCA representative there for protection from abuse orders. We have a dedicated sheriff deputy, a dedicated Birmingham police officer. We have a dedicated district attorney. We have 2 dedicated investigators. Everything that you need. We even have a sexual assault nurse examiner who does the exams, all at this location. All here at this location, which then allows us to streamline the cases, make better cases, make sure we have all the resources in one place to be able to guide this survivor or guide this victim of domestic violence to make sure that they're protected and make sure that they know that they're not alone. And the next slide will show you everything that's under that umbrella. And as you can see, I mean, there's everything there, whether it's long-term housing, critical care housing, court advocacy, forensic exams, counseling, protective from abuse orders, everything that they need. We try to provide it under this one location, which is One Place Metro Alabama Family Justice Center. So if you're watching this, please know that this is a resource that's available free of charge to people who have been victimized by domestic violence and or sexual assaults as well. Go to the next slide, Bishop. Real quick, I'm just going to go through this one. These were issues that were permeating throughout the criminal justice system when I was district attorney pro tem, before I was politely removed. Money bail was an issue because there were wealth-based disparities, meaning people were being held strictly because they were poor, even on nonviolent cases. We had diversion programs, like we'll talk about that real quick in a minute, but mental health court, drug court, things of that nature that were not available to people that were indigent. Meaning that if you had money, you reaped the benefit. If you didn't, you didn't get in. And then civil asset forfeitures, where the police can take your automobile or your house and things of that nature. Here in Alabama, there was no requirement for a conviction. But by law, there isn't no requirement for conviction, but just a policy of mine was that we wanted a paper trail to make sure things were done above board and that we have a conviction relative to that. And the last thing, life without parole on drug cases. I always felt like that was a no-no. And one of the things that we've implemented is that we're not ever offering life without parole on a drug case. I mean, unless, of course, your Scarface, which we'll probably never see that. So you can go to the next one, Bishop.
Wait a minute. You tell me we have a law in the state of Alabama that our assets could be confiscated even without being convicted?
Yes, through civil asset forfeiture.
So they can just take our property if we had some drugs and they take it.
Yes.
And what you're doing in Jefferson County, you're not taking property unless there's conviction.
Unless there's a conviction and that we show that there's a sufficient nexus between illegal activity and the item that was seized. If we can't show that, then we're not taking them. No.
Well, then that's not right. I mean, I think that goes against the Constitution. That should be
right.
Somebody should challenge that. And then life without parole just because of a drug.
Just because of the amount of drugs you have on you, and you'll see that later on. We've had people, namely a lady named Geneva Cooley, a guy named Derek Irving, who are both out now, but they were sentenced to life without parole because of drug cases and drug cases only. So,
yes. People, we need to wake up. We need to recognize what's going on and the kind of things government is doing. Civil asset forfeitures, and you're making a decision that you won't take our property unless we're convicted. I think that's right.
Right.
And life without parole on a drug, I think, is extreme. But we will continue on. We'll continue on. And I'm trying to hold my peace, but I'm not good.
Now, diversion programs, real quick. And there's one key thing at the end I want your listeners to learn to get out of this, if nothing else. These are the diversion programs we have offered here in Jefferson County. And in most counties around the state, half of these are not offered. But we have a drug court ran by Judge Maria Fortune. We have a mental health court ran by Judge Stephen Wallace. We have a veterans court ran by Judge Michael Streety. And we have a theft court that I initiated in 2019 upon being elected. That's what I call pre-indictment, meaning in district court. Now, here's the big thing about all of these courts. And here is the big benefit. The major benefit is this. And they say I can't give legal advice, but I'm not giving legal advice. I'm giving knowledge on this one. If you finish one of these courts and you complete one of these courts, you are eligible to get an expungement. In other words, you're eligible to have your case purged or your conviction purged completely from your record. That's important. That means you have it handled as if it never happened before. I see people come to court and say, my lawyer got my case dismissed. My case was dismissed, and they walk out and high-five each other. The problem sometimes is that if an employer is doing their due diligence, they run your background, they're still going to show that arrest. Then you find yourself explaining that arrest. Through these courts, if you complete them, you get them purged completely, and it's legal, and it's the law in Alabama. So I just wanted to make sure everybody who's listening today, if nothing else, you'll walk away armed with that information. So you can go to the next one, Bishop. And again, real quick, asset forfeiture, as I said, I believe it should require sufficient nexus between the drugs and the proceeds. There should be an arrest required. And one of the things that we should look at is how those funds are used. Marijuana cases, real quick. And we know that's a hot button topic, but you see the two names I mentioned there, Geneva Cooley and Derek Irving. And you'll see a slide with Derek Irving in a minute. But trafficking in Alabama is 2.2 pounds of marijuana. 2.2 pounds. But 1,000 pounds actually is life without parole, even if you've never been in the system before in your life. Even if you've never killed anybody, even if you've never robbed anybody, even if you've never done anything. That means you would die in prison. Now, fortunately, after these two, Derek Irving and Geneva Cooley, cases were handled, there was a move in Montgomery to try to get that changed and make sure in 2018 that it's no longer life without parole for drug cases. Now, life is the maximum. But again, and you'll see in the next slide, and one of the things on this last slide, Bishop, is something that I mentioned, and some listeners may have heard about it. At one point, I was trying to advocate for cite and release as it relates to low-level marijuana cases. And we can talk about that later, but I thought that was important at the time because, again, people are being arrested for low-level drug cases, cars being towed, they got to hire a lawyer, they got to make a bond, all the stuff that go along with being arrested for low-level drug cases if you've never been in the system before, and oftentimes there's people who can't afford it. So I thought cite and release, just like a traffic ticket, cite them, allow them to come to court later on, and we can deal with that case will be more effective and keep our law enforcement officers on the street so we can patrol and deal with violent crime. But that was met with a lot of disdain at that time. But now, looking back on it, I'm hearing that there's conversations in Montgomery about it. But when I mentioned it 2 years ago, there was a lot of disdain about it. But we'll talk about that later. But again, I thought this slide was important for informational purposes. Now, this is a biggie. We talked about the Sexual Assault Kit Initiative because one of the things that I wanted to prioritize again was domestic violence and assault on women. One of the other things that I thought was important was this Helping Families Initiative. And some of you I know have heard about this, and it's been really, really, really huge for this office and huge for our communities and huge for our school-age kids. This is another thing I want to tackle, which I call the pipeline to prison. And when you drop out of school, unless you have a skill, you're rich, or something, you're going to end up in the car with a gun. You're going to end up on the corner with drugs. You're going to end up doing something that's going to change your life and put you in jail and end up in that pipeline to prison. It's so easy to get in it, but it's so hard to get out of it. So this Helping Families Initiative is just what it says. It helps the family. You can't help the child unless you help the family. How does this work? Real quick, what we're trying to do is prevent court referrals in family court. Typically what happens is a child has 7 unexcused absences. They have to go to family court, and a judge will say, Mama, you better have your child in school. I'm going to put you in jail. Dad, you better have that child in school. I'm going to put you in jail. And child, you better be in school. I'm going to put you in a juvenile detention facility. And they all walk out no better than when they went. So what we decided to do is do something a bit different. So what we do now is 2 unexcused absences. A letter is generated on my letterhead. And when that letter is generated on my letterhead, it goes to the house. And it basically tells them, hey, we know there are 2 unexcused absences. The next one, you got to come see us. But what happens is, to their surprise, is that we have a multidisciplinary team there. We have a community foundation there. We have somebody from a mental health piece there. We have UAB test. We have all these people there that can help figure out what is the root cause of why a child is not going to school. And once we identify that root cause, we do a home assessment and we do a home plan for that child and that family, and we carry out that home plan. And we've had great success. We have people self-referring now to the district attorney's office to this initiative. So they're self-referring, listeners. If you listen, literally, they're calling us saying this program is helpful and we want to be involved in this program. We got people from the community calling the district attorney's office, self-referring. And we're now, and thanks to the Board of Education in Birmingham, we're in all of the schools, Birmingham City schools, and we're also in Tarrant and their feeder pattern as well. But we want to continue to move out in the county at some point. But this program is helping. So you go to the next slide, please, Bishop. Here are some of the things we've done. School uniform, food utility assistance, mentorship, counseling, employment training, provided furniture, parenting classes, all the GED literacy program for the kid and the family, mental health evaluations, all the things that some people may not think that you do from a DA standpoint. I often tell people, I'm kind of unorthodox. You know, it's easy to be the DA and just prosecute people, but where the rubber meets the road is, what are you doing substantively to change the narrative? What are you doing substantively to make sure that you're making a difference and using your position creatively to help people? And these are some of the things. And if you go to the next one, please, Bishop. Here's one that's important. I want you to look at this slide. I took the schools' names off. March 5th, 2019. A K-8 school, look at the first level, 3,098 unexcused absences. 3,098. A K-8 school, y'all, 3,098. And then look at when Helping Families got involved. March 6, 2020, 1 year later, we knocked it down to 2,149. That's 949 days difference in learning and 6,643 hours of more learning time. Look at that. Look at, and go, you can go down the list. This is the effect that we're having on these schools right from the district attorney's office by using our platform creatively, making sure that we're doing other things to help the community as well. Keeping kids in school, trying to make sure that these kids understand the importance of staying in school and staying out the prison pipeline. These are real numbers. So I want you to see that. I want you to see that. You can go to the next one, Bishop. Real quick, this is a conviction review unit that a lot of people ask me about. And this is, we've started the first conviction review unit in the state of Alabama. And the importance of the CRU is to look at cases that may have some wrongful convictions undertone, but at the same time, they have to meet a certain criteria. But at the same time, also look at excessive sentencing. And we've done that on several cases now. And we found some cases that we were successful at looking at as it relates to excessive sentencing, but also looking at some cases that we thought may be questionable. And it's a high burden. It's a high burden. I mean, you don't just look at them and say, oh, this guy got mad, he got convicted, so let's look at, no, it's a high burden to get to that point. But we're talking about actual innocence. And it's a high burden, but we've had some success with this as it relates to this CRU unit. Go to the next one. Here's a guy I talked about, Derek Irving. Derek Irving is a guy that the Birmingham Times did a story on. He came through the CRU unit through our CRU unit. I heard about Derek Irving's case. I actually met Derek Irving when I went to speak at St. Clair Correctional Facility. I was actually their speaker for their Black History Month program. And the warden thought I was crazy for walking into prison and speaking, but he wanted me to come. I showed up, and I heard about this, but Derek Irving got life without parole because of the drug case. He served 12 years. There was a Rule 30, and I'm not gonna get too technical, but the way this happened is there was a Rule 32 that was filed at my urgence. And then through Appleseed, we got involved. Derek Irving was ultimately, because we didn't object to it and we signed off on it, he was released. And now not only, and you'll see it in a minute, not only did he come to what's called a second chance job fair that I did, but he has started 3 businesses and he hired 4 guys who were felons having a hard time getting employment. This is what I'm talking about by looking behind the case, making sure you're making a difference in the community. But this man was sentenced to die, but now not only is he making a difference in our community, he is getting people involved in making sure he changed lives as well and paying it forward. So you go to the next one. Real quick, because I thought this is something that people may not have heard of. This is due process for students. Why is this important, everybody? Because Alabama, I think, and if I'm not mistaken, remains the only state in the Southeast, if I'm not mistaken, with no uniform state law providing due process protection for students for long-term exposure. And when I found that out, one of the things that I wanted to do was figure out how can we make sure, because I just talked about the pipeline of prison through the Helping Families Initiative, how can we make sure that kids are not just wrongfully expelled long-term and kicked out of school and then end up in that pipeline of prison? So what we did was we wrote some legislation, Senate Bill 203. And that bill, it didn't pass this last time because there was a lot of stuff going on with the gambling and the medical marijuana. But the one thing that I know that the Supreme Court ruled 46 years ago in Ohio was that students suspended from school without hearings, that they were denied their 14th Amendment rights. So this due process and justice for students is something that I decided to do, and it was Senate Bill 203. Kudos to Senator Roger Smitherman and some others that made sure that helped me draft this bill. Appleseed helped me draft this bill to make sure that our kids get protection as it relates to being long-term suspended in the form of a hearing, in the form of being notified of what the allegations are, and then having their moment to make sure that they're heard before they're kicked out of school, if nothing else, and that there's something in place for those kids. Will you go to the next one, please? And you go to the next one. That's just one of the pages that was. But here's the event. As you can see, I put on an event, and all these people are some of our educators and leaders in education that's within the state of Alabama, throughout the entire state, because I wanted that law to be uniform throughout the state, not just Jefferson County, but statewide. And this is some of the stuff that we put on. Go to the next one. And as you can see up in the top left up there, that's me giving, I'm sure, a great soliloquy about why this law is needed and why it's important. And this is just one where you can see why it's important. Montgomery County school system had to shell out some money for wrongfully kicking 2 kids out of school after they was exonerated, but they still wouldn't let them back in school. And you can see there's a quote from Senator Smitherman at the time where I was trying to push this due process bill through, as well as to show why it's so important as well. Here's a real quick, I want you just to see the gravity. This is a backpack for students, backpack for scholars event. And this is in my community in Ensley, outside of a building that my family owns. And you can see the turnout and how many of those kids were just happy to get a new backpack, and how many people showed up just to get a backpack, just to engage, just to have conversation. But you can look at that line, and they were so excited to just get a backpack, just to have something to go to school with and be excited about. So we try to do that every year and try to make sure that we're also making a difference with the small issues in our community as well. Now, this is something that I did that people said I was crazy about. Second Chance Job Fair. I often tell people, if you want to fight crime, the way you fight crime is you're not going to arrest your way out of it. You're not going to prosecute your way out of it. You have to change the mindset and change the trajectory of people's lives. This is the first job fair I did back in 2019. I've done 5 since. We just had a recent one. But at this one, you can see 57 employers showed up and registered, and they understood that our target audience were felons, people who have been convicted of criminal activity or crimes and having a hard time getting jobs. But here's the kicker. We had 584 people, job seekers, you can see on that sheet, show up. 584 felons and 152 jobs at the bottom were placed that day. 152 livable wage jobs were placed that day. To me, that's meaningful change. And as you can see, the youngest person was 17 years of age. The oldest was 71 years of age. But we placed 152 jobs that day. And again, you can go to the next one, please, Bishop. And this is the most recent one, but you can look at to the left. Over 5 job fairs we've had over 800 job seekers, 405 people hired, 50 plus employers, and even we've had Jim Berkstein on to be one of the sponsors to help us out, because of course, like everything else, funding is always an issue. But again, we're doing what we have to do to make the change that we want to see. And this is a virtual one we did with the Urban League, even during COVID. In May, we did one with the Urban League as well. You can go to the next one. And just to show you the depth of what I mean by making a difference and trying to use your platform to the best of your ability. This is a vaccine, COVID vaccine clinic that was done in my neighborhood in Ensley at my church, Macedonian Missionary Baptist Church. And I have to give a shout out to my church family, also Dr. W.M. Norwood, who has been in the pulpit over almost 70 years, well, probably 60 some odd years. And again, he allowed us to do this, to try to make a change and make a difference in our community. And we had a lot of people show up who was walking there, and we rolled through the community and we engaged people to show up that day to get their COVID vaccine. Real quick, Amnesty Week. Here's the difference with this Amnesty Week for the listeners. We hear about Amnesty Weeks at different municipal courts, but those are traffic tickets. And not that they're not important, but this Amnesty Week was different because these were nonviolent felony cases. And if you look at the timing of it, it was important from a standpoint of making sure that we got the FTAs off of people's heads, so to speak. People who didn't show up for court because they didn't have money. They felt like they were going to be held because they couldn't pay the fine. Or they just decided, hey, I got to go pay my light bill instead of paying for this pair of socks that I stole out of Walmart. So I'm gonna take my chance, which means they couldn't get ID, they couldn't go apply for a job because they had warrants. So as you can see, we got all the judges on board downtown, and they did a wonderful job taking their day. Each one had a day. And as you can see, we had over 700 people to show up. And we handled their cases that day. And there was a lady that actually walked up to me and actually cried and said, you know, I'm so grateful for this because, you know, I wanted to get a job. I wanted to be able to provide for my family. I didn't have the money to go to court. I was afraid I would get picked up. I couldn't get an ID, but she came to court. She got her case handled, and she was just so happy to get that taken off her head. And it was a minor felony case, but it was something that she just was afraid to come because she didn't have the money. So we changed lives in that way as well. Real quick, this is something that we just announced. Reset Jefferson County. That's coming up. You go to the next slide, Bishop. This is the model that happens now. A young person, first-time offender, get caught with 3 pills in his pocket or something. He ends up getting booked in jail. He has to make a bond. A defense attorney gets involved. He ends up going to one of the diversion courts that we talked about. The problem is that oftentimes, if he doesn't finish, it ends up in a felony conviction, and or there are fines and things that are associated with it as well. So it becomes kind of a money thing more than anything else. Now, if you go to the next one, this is how Reset is envisioned. Reset is envisioned that they're basically released on their own signature, right? So there's no money involved in that. Then we have a Reset coordinator that steps in, looks at the case, looks at the needs. We have community providers that are available, and all of this is done off-site, and there won't be any cost to the individual. And what this is, everybody, is basically true restorative justice. And I'll give you a quick example. What this is if a guy goes and steals a lawnmower out of a shed, and a young boy, and he goes to court, and the judge says, I'm gonna put you on probation, and you stay out of trouble for 2 years. Then he walks out. Reset is different from the fact that there's no cost to him, but it's off-site and not in a courtroom, and the victim is allowed to be there and tell this young man how that simple act that he did affected his family, though. You know, I pay for my child to go to school, and I pay for my child lunch. I provide for my child and keep the utilities on through cutting grass and doing things with that lawnmower that you stole. So son, if I can help you in any way, I'd be willing to do that, but you got to help yourself as well. In other words, they have that one-on-one moment, but we also will have resource providers in there to find out what this family need and what this young man need to try to keep him out of the system. And the best case scenario is if he does what he's supposed to do, he's never charged and he'll never had that arrest on his record. And hopefully he's not a part of the recidivism rate, and hopefully he's better from it.
I'd like to do for a minute here. I know you've got a few more slides you're going to go through, but I want to give an opportunity. If there's at a certain point that I can bring the pastors on and Father Mitch on and address some of the questions that might come from the audience. When you feel there's an appropriate time for us to pause, let us know. And I don't know if there's some other major points you want to get to.
There's only about 3 more slides I really want to speak on. So
okay, those that you want to speak on is what we want to do. So we're going to bring.
Okay, you go to the next one, Bishop. And all right, and again, this is just how Project Reset case flow, but it's just what I just talked about, so we don't have to belabor that one again. And again, you can see who it benefits. In this Project Reset will only benefit class ages 17 through 24. And it's Class D's, low-level felony offenses. We're talking about possession of controlled substance, theft, 3rd degree, forgery, 3rd, receiving stolen property, small things. But we looked at how many people and who was being arrested for those crimes, and you can look at those numbers right there. But again, ages 17 to 24 is the target audience. Go to the next one. And one more. All right, real quick. Why do we need Project Reset? Here's why. Ronald McKeithen. Some of you may have saw the story on him. Ronald McKeithen did 37 years in prison. He did 37 years in prison because at age 18 and 19, he had small Class D felony convictions. And then he robbed a store in 1983 with a baseball, with a stick in his hand, I'm sorry. And that was considered robbery in the 1st degree. He got sentenced to life without parole because of those minor offenses. And he spent 37 years in. and this is one of the guys' cases that I got involved in. He has since been released. That's a picture of him being released. And not only has he been released, now he's an artist, a barber, a poet, a mentor, and he is doing everything in our community right, and making sure that no other young person ever gets in this situation again. But again, he did 37 years for going in a store with a stick in his hand because of those prior class D felonies at age 18 and 19. And again, these are things that the public and people need to know about and how we're making a difference, even directly and indirectly. So if you can go ahead. Here's something that was near and dear to me, the District Attorney League of Gentlemen. This is a mentorship group that I started out of my pocket. This has nothing to do with the district attorney's office as it relates to funding. This is just something, I started a 501c3, but I wanted to use the platform of the district attorney because I knew it would benefit this program and benefit the young men. And as you can see, this is us at Parker High School. Actually, this is one of the cohorts my cousin Melody Brown put on. We did education tutoring. We did some tutoring. And you can see the young man there is getting his birthday cake. And my mom, who is standing in the background, who does everything with me and for me. She stalks me, but she's there supporting everything that I do. But again, this is, again, making a difference, letting young men from the same community I'm from know that you can be whatever you want to be. Just don't let your circumstances dictate your future. And that's what we try to do with these young men. So you can go to the next one. And this is just me outside of St. Clair Correctional Facility, again, talking to inmates who we know going to be back in our system and trying to encourage them to be the best that they can be. And one last one, I think one or two more. This is in the schools. And I'm so passionate about going to the schools again because I want young people to have that chance that I had. And if you can see up in the far right up there, that young man in the far right, he was at West End Academy. And someone sent that picture to me. And you see what it says? It says, "I am Danny Carr." And to me, that spoke volumes. And that means that this young man, sees me as a role model. And it's humbling, but also it's gratifying in the fact that now you understand that, now you have to raise your level because you got a young man watching you. And I actually went over to the school and surprised him. And it was a sight. And at the bottom right there, those are young people that I took into the county jail so they can understand that the stove is hot and that they don't want to find themselves in that place, and that this is not a game, it's real. So I just want to make sure that I do my part in outreaching as well. And the last one, oh, you can go past that one. We can talk about that, but you can go past that right now. But this is the last one. This is me in front of a big American flag. Just kind of knowing that, people can doubt you and your circumstances cannot be, what people expect from a person who ends up being the dean of the largest county and the largest office. But again, I'm living the American dream by the grace of God and God's blessings upon me. And I truly believe that, God blesses you because he knows that you're going to be a blessing to others. And so I try to be that every day. So I thank everybody for listening.
I want to do right now, I'm going to bring the pastors on and bring them back in here, and because they may have some questions. I know that the same thing. I've got questions. There's something, and I just want to address this from the audience first. There's a Stephanie Carter out there that says that you got a good heart and really care about building the youth up. But unfortunately, everyone in the court's not following his lead, praying for first true unity and racism towards these young Black men in justice system. You have done some awfully great things that are out there. I can't see anything wrong with what you're addressing, but is it? Are you having challenges from others for the programs that you're setting up that are giving back to the community?
Stephanie, and I'll say, the challenges are kind of inherent, and let me address it this way because I think she makes a good point, Bishop. The one thing people have to realize that there's almost 38 or so, I think, elected DAs in the state of Alabama, right? And when I go to those meetings, a lot of times the things that I'm doing here in Jefferson County are frowned upon in other parts of the state. Things like second chance job fair. I mentioned that at our conference where all the other elected DAs were. And they thought I was crazy. They looked at me and kind of laughed like, are you crazy? I mean, that's not your lane. You're the district attorney. They don't understand that, you're still a servant and you still, it's, to me, the easy part is to come here and prosecute people every day. And we understand that we're going to do that. But where the hard part of the rubber meets the road is using your creative ability to get out there and go in the community, not be afraid to talk to people in the community and engage people and put things in place to help people that need help as well. And the Second Chance Job Fair was an issue. This Reset Jefferson County, they didn't like the fact that you're talking about young men 17 to 24. We even had, and I won't say his name, but we even had a DA at the county at one of our meetings say that we need to reduce the age. We need to reduce the age to automatic life without parole for 14-year-olds. And so, we have this dilemma in the state where you have me in Jefferson County, but you have DAs in other parts of the state that don't see it through the lens I see it through. And in actuality, and one of the things I told them was, until you respect and see it through the lens I see it through, and respect the way I was brought up, and respect the issues that I see in the community where I'm from, and how I see utilizing this office, then, that conversation with the rest of the delegation is really for naught. But Stephanie brings up a good point. There are a lot of people that don't see using diversion courts that way. Well, there are a lot of people that don't see looking at indigent individuals and allowing them in diversion courts as well. There are a lot of people that don't understand the dynamic of going in schools as the district attorney and making sure that people understand the ramifications of their actions. Because they oftentimes say at the DA, you shouldn't be as engaging. It's not, stay out, it's not your lane.
Well, Mr. DA, I tell you what, I'm going to get out of this because I'll get upset when I see you doing programs, and then other pastors are here too, and Father Mitch is here. I see you doing programs with an understanding of the community from which you have come.
Yeah.
And I know very clearly there ain't many DAs like you that are around. When I say like you, I don't want to be, it's just not many like you. You grew up in the neighborhood, you know what it's like. And our Constitution says that we should be judged by our peers. Well, we don't have many that look like you that are looking out for the community like that. And these programs you got, like I said, I'll be quiet. Okay, Father Mitch, Pastor Mike, before I make folks, I say the wrong thing here, y'all jump in here and you talk to the DA.
I was going to make a suggestion. It seems that, in that discussion about with the other DAs, that in regard to the way that you're handling things, I suspect that for a lot of people in politics, the issue is one of being lenient in giving sentences versus being really strict to keep criminals off the street. And that either or is not the only way to approach it. That's what I like about what you're doing. You're not seeing this simply in terms of you got to be lenient. Folks have a tough time. Let them go. That's not what you're doing.
No.
But at the same time, it's not being tough on people and just locking them up and keeping them there. There has to be a variety of ways out. That's what I see you also including as a third leg of the stool. And as I understand stools, 3 legs keep it a little bit more stable than 2.
Yeah, Father, you're absolutely right. And to piggyback off of what you said, I think another element of that, when you talked about the political side of that, is that in Jefferson County, and then you're talking to a DA in Conecuh County, those are 2 different words.
Yeah.
2 different words per se. But one of the things that we also have to understand is what I try to explain to them is this: is there's a complaint about jail overcrowding. Well, here's the thing: because we have this habitual felon offender act that keep guys like I had on this slide in for life, or Miss Geneva Cooley, who is almost the age of a grandmother, in for life, who had never threatened anyone with violence at any time in their life. Then the guys who goes out and kills or rapes a child or does something like that, then the parole board has to make a decision based on those cases, because the people who got automatic life without parole are in there on nonviolent cases. So, there's give and take. And until you look at this thing holistically and truly come to grips with it and call it for what it is, then we're always going to be in that position. But nobody wants to call it for what it is. And Father, and I may look, like I hope I look like I'm 21, but I've been doing this. A lot of people don't know this. I've been in the DA's office now 20 years, 16 as an assistant, coming up on 4 as the district attorney. And I've seen a lot, and I've dealt with a lot, but holistically, there is so many tentacles out there that you have to be willing to do things a little differently in order to get the results that you want to see. And you have to have the courage to do some things a little differently as well.
I was just going to add one other point. Because you come from church, you're able to bring that more 3D, three-dimensional view of looking at it. It's not just under law. You have a sense of another perspective that only God can give. And I think this is one of the things that our whole gatekeepers is trying to approach. How do we bring that deeper dimension that fills in the way that all people in the political system, in the government, are able to be more sensible as a result?
And I agree. And one of the things that people get in trouble, in my opinion, and the one thing that we're missing is that we have to figure out a way, even as gatekeepers, to mirror all of those agencies together. Meaning, the DA's office can do certain things, but what is partner paroles doing? What is probation services doing? What is the legislature doing? What are the judges doing? How the police, are they community policing? I mean, so all of these agencies have to kind of stand locked and figure out and be willing to come to the table and set egos aside and do what's best for the community and make sure. And until we do that, because oftentimes people want credit for something. And it's not necessarily about credit. At the end of the day, all the blessings come from the Lord himself. So it's not, he gets the glory and the credit, but they want credit. They want their name to have credit towards something versus doing what's best for the community, and everything else will take care of itself. And that's where I see a huge disconnect.
Yep, exactly. Pastor Mike, did you have something you were going to add to?
Okay, Pastor Mike, are you there? Are you hearing us right now? I'm not sure if he's hearing us, guys.
Yeah, I think not. Because I know that he had a question about why in the past were so few of the SAC kits, for sexual assault issues. Why were those kits, so few of those kits submitted in the past? What happened to let that slide?
That's a great question. Pastor. Here's what we surmised is that some of those kits, the survivor, I call them survivors, the survivor decided they didn't want to go forward. Or some of those, at the time, some of those kits, for whatever reason, there's no real good reason for it. But also some of it too was just bad policing and bad follow-up. Once those kits were obtained, and how they're obtained, that's called there's a chain of custody that's provided with it. Meaning they get the kit done and then the doctor box it up. I mean, the examiner box it up. They send it to Department of Forensic Sciences. Department of Forensic Sciences do their job And then once they do their job, they send it back to the police department. And then 2 years later, the case is tried. But for whatever reason, some of those kits, for whatever reason, just fell through the crack and was never submitted for whatever reason. Now, I don't have a good reason why, other than in my mind, some of it was just kind of lazy work. Some of it was just not following through. Some of it now was that the survivor did not want to go forward, so it was never submitted.
Okay.
Wow.
Pastor Mike, well, you got to. I think we got you back now.
And can I also can I say this too, Pastor Mike? Also, one thing about survivors of, especially things like rape and sexual assault, oftentimes the most important thing about the slide dealing with one place was that by the time a case goes to court, it's 2.5 years, 3 years later, and that survivor has been out there. The family of the boyfriend, the family of whomever or the offender has been talking to her. He's the breadwinner. If you go to court, he's never going to be able to get a job again. Playing on her psyche, and then she decides, I don't want to go forward anymore. I don't want to have anything to do with this. It's so many layers to those cases. So that's why it's so important to have this one place family justice center, so we can have constant contact with that survivor. And what we've also done too, Pastor, is we've hired additional VSOs, meaning victim service officers, within the district attorney's office. So we can continue to have that contact, because historically, when I was an assistant DA and I had a rape case, I may have 10. And so I got other cases going on too. And it's hard for me to have that continued contact because I'm getting ready for other cases. So we got victim service officers now that can streamline, continue that contact, call, check in. The one place people can call and check in, so that survivor knows that they're not alone and that we're there to hold their hand all the way to the end.
Yeah. Gotcha. Man, first of all, Danny Carr, let me just give a kudos to you, man, because all the initiatives that you're doing is definitely different than many DAs are doing, man. And I know it takes a lot of courage to be out the box and creative within this within the position that you're in. And also, you said something about 20 years of being an attorney, and I know all the things you may have seen, and not only seeing them on the surface, but seeing things behind the scene. And I want to say, man, you could tell that you're genuine. Your heart has not been hardened, and you continue to push forth. But I want to ask, man, just another question, man. I love what you're doing with the children and things of that nature. But can you explain to the people, like, I guess your heart for criminals, so to speak, or the victim, or the guys who commit the crimes, and going back and trying to really assist them in becoming a better person in society, and not looking at what they've been convicted of, but actually looking at them. Can you explain to us, like, where does that heart and that passion and that willingness to continue to fight for them now that you're in a position that you don't really have to do anything but do your job and get your points on the board, so to speak, and go home. But instead, you're taking hits and saying, hey, man, this is who I am. Can you explain where that character come from and that strength to continue to do that? And thank you for doing it as well.
That's a great question, Pastor. And I will tell you, a lot of people may not know this. My little brother was murdered, and I live with it every day, and it never goes away. And it is difficult. It's very difficult. The one thing that I tell people, though, in the one thing that I don't get involved in overturn is our homicide cases. But other cases, and guys who have had past indiscretions, guys who come back to society, I truly believe that, but by the grace of God, I could have been one of those guys. A lot of my friends are in St. Clair Correctional Facility, guys who I grew up with, guys who I walked back and forth to school with, guys who I played basketball at McAlpine Recreation Center with. All those guys are guys who I knew. I called them friends. I mean, guys who I actually hung out with. So, from where I'm from, I look at things through a different lens, and I understand that good people make dumb decisions. But I also understand that there are some people that deserve that second opportunity to get it right. And I truly believe that in this position, I have the opportunity to hold people accountable, yet also allow some people to get it right. And we don't get involved in the get right phase unless we truly know that this person is going to get out and do it the right way. And we've been fortunate that all of those individuals have gotten out. They paid their debts to society, but they've gotten out and gotten it right. And I hear so many people who was paroled, and it has nothing to do with us, but they come by and they say, "Hey, I'm having a hard time getting a job, man. I just want to be, a productive member of society." And when I started hearing so much of that, Pastor Edwards, I decided, God put on my heart to do a second chance job fair. And the key to it was second chance. That's what people are missing. Second chance means people who've been in the system, people who've been affected by the criminal justice system, not just a job fair like employers have saying, come one, come all. Let's just give. These are people who need a second chance, need a leg up, need an opportunity, and who truly want to change their lives. And I'll give you a quick story. I had a guy, and I'm not going to call his name, but I went to St. Clair Correctional Facility. And it's right before I did the second chance job fair, Pastor. And I walked in. I didn't know what I was going to say. And I walked into St. Clair, and we walked in this big gymnasium. And it was nighttime. And they had a band in there. And the band was playing. And then when I walked in, a guy went to the mic and introduced me. And when I went up there, I prayed before I went. I said, "Lord, what do you want me to say?" And when it was revealed, I was saying to myself, "Lord, you sure you want me to say that?" But when I got up, here's what I said in a nutshell. I said, "I think you're all are cowards." And I said, "I'm not calling you cowards because you're not tough. I think you're all are cowards because you're taking the easy route. You rather come here, get 3 hots in a cot, keep coming back, sitting on the edge of your bed every day, sitting next to each other, talking about what you used to be, instead of coming out of prison, being an OG, because they look at you as an OG, and getting some of these guns out these young boys' hands and making sure that they don't make the mistake you made." I said, that's where courage comes from. And I think you're a coward because you don't want to come out and help me help our community. And that was in a nutshell what I said. And I challenge each one. If you come out, come see me if your heart is right. And 3 guys came out, one of which came to see me. And he came to see me. And not only did he come to see me, he came to my second chance job fair and he bought his paycheck. And he had his niece and his girlfriend with him and said, and he cried. And he said, "Man," he said, "I came to show you my first paycheck." He said, "Man, you changed my life and I'm going to pay it forward." And I remember sitting in the prison. He said, "When you left that prison, every guy in there took inventory that night and said, you know what? He's right. He's right." And they took inventory. And he said, "Man, they talked about you for a whole week to come in there and say that." And he said, "We had to look in the mirror at ourselves." And things like that is just, and it's different. It's different. But again, at the end of the day, I just truly believe that, you can't live a perfect day without doing something for somebody who will never be able to repay you.
But you were very firm. When you told them they were cowards, I cringed off.
I did too, Bishop. But I said,
But
I did too, Bishop.
But I think that's what people need to hear. They need to know the truth, and sometimes the truth hurts. But you got those guys coming back in there, and they go to job fairs that they can go in there and help keep other folk off the street. My heart goes out to you. Come on, let's get some more questions.
And let me say this. And let me say this. Ronald McKeithen, the guy that y'all saw on the slide, Ronald McKeithen is the manager, one of the managers at the service department at Jim Burke Brewery downtown right now, 3rd Avenue North. You can go by there and ask for Ronald McKeithen. You'll see him with his uniform on. He is the guy that did 37 years. This guy, he is there right now.
And he got that second chance.
Yep.
Because you say he was supposed to be in life without parole.
He was supposed to die in prison. He did 37 years.
And this is a program that you set up, you established, and you got this guy out of prison. Is that it?
This guy is okay. I joined in getting him out of prison through my conviction review unit, through a CRU. Yes.
Yeah, so your program now was that program. I have to ask that because I know the other brothers are there too, but you didn't. That's not a part of what the state required you to do to
No.
set up these programs like you got like this. Is that correct?
None of those are required by the state. None.
Okay. Now listen, and this is what I'm trying to get people to do. And I've had people that sometimes get upset with me because I'm involved with guys like you. You need to be encouraged. You've got to be encouraged because you've set up things here with a different understanding that others have because they just throw them in jail, lock up the key, but throw away the key. You're one that's a godly man, and there you are, and there are people out there that are going to come up behind you and they're going to beat you when an election comes around because they can talk better than you or they can do something else. But you're doing what the people need for them, and people need to hear this. That's the reason I'm doing programs like this, and I'll do programs with other community leaders because the public needs to know who's there for them. And I thank you for it. So I speak my little part on that right now. I give the other pastors and Father Mitch opportunity to ask you other questions because I do it's a passion that I have. I'm going to step out just so that y'all can do y'all talking.
I have one other question based on a news report. Well, it was a feature story by Trey Gowdy, used to be a U.S. Congressman from South Carolina, and he presented a problem that abductions of people of color do not get into the media, and without the media attention, they don't get the legal attention the way that a lot of abductions of white people get. We see this case of this poor young lady that was killed in Wyoming while she was out camping with her boyfriend. And that's been all over the news. But there are also African Americans, Hispanics, and others who also are kidnapped, and you just don't hear about it. It just doesn't make it. Is this an issue in Jefferson County? Does this occur here? And is it something that needs more attention, both by the legal system and by the news media?
Father, I would say that I don't think it's a problem in Jefferson County, in all honesty.
Okay.
What I do believe is that the mindset of the media, if it bleeds, it leads, can be a problem. And the reason it can be a problem is because we talked about the drug epidemic and fentanyl, but we hadn't heard much about it.
Nope.
We hadn't heard much about it, but it's killing people every day. There's a 100% increase in deaths. And not that it has to be breaking news, but I think the media should not be neglectful in informing the public about it, so parents can be on the lookout, so they can talk to their kids about it. For our church, so our church community can talk to their people about it. I mean, that's something that needs to occur.
And even the people who are using marijuana, thinking that, it's just marijuana, it's not a big deal. And it is a big deal if there's fentanyl in it.
Yes.
I think the dealers add the fentanyl not to try to kill people, but to give them a greater buzz and create more customers.
That's right.
The dealers tend to be pretty stupid, and they don't know. They're not pharmacists, and they're not giving carefully measured amounts.
Right.
And the amount, it's what is it, 2 grams?
And what happens?
2 centigrams. 2 centigrams. I mean, it's about the size, the amount that you would have from cutting a fingernail. About that amount will kill you.
That's
how little it takes.
That's right. And there's a battle, because you're correct. They're not necessarily trying to kill people, but there's a battle on the street to who has the strongest stuff. My stuff is more potent. My stuff gets you a higher buzz. So buy his stuff, not knowing that it's laced with fentanyl. And once we get the word out, then I believe that at some point that they need to look at legislation that if you can legislate the source of those drugs with fentanyl back to that individual, that there'll be stiffer penalties to keep that stuff off the street.
Yep.
Because that stuff is truly killing people. And as you can see, I mean, the numbers are going through the roof.
And the amount of it that's coming across from Mexico and is being sent to our country by China
Yes.
is enormous. And this just, you know, sometimes it doesn't fit political agendas.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's true.
But people are dying.
They're dying. They're dying. Bottom line. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, come on, Pastor Mike, jump in there, cause I mean, this is stuff I know, and I've told people, and they look at me like I'm crazy for talking about it. But I want the public to know we got to be involved. Stephanie, I don't know who she is, but she believes you're not going anywhere. But I want to say to everybody out there, yeah, you would be kicked out of office if the people don't get up and vote for you next year. If they don't recognize what you're doing and you're benefiting them. There are politicians out there that are not, their interest is not in the community. They want power for themselves. And I think each one of the other gatekeepers, and you all will find out, we have been involved with many of them. We know that some of them don't care about the public. They care about their power. And this is something, I say, Stephanie, you may love him. You may think he's a good person that's out there. But let me tell you something. If the people don't get out and vote, if the people don't know who they're voting for, they will vote for a fool and not know they're voting for a fool. They're just voting because somebody in a party told them, go vote for this person. And we've got to learn to think for ourselves. But I speak too much. Pastor Mike, I got gatekeepers here. They know my passion. But come on, ask this man questions, because I'll jump in there crazy. So come on now. Go ahead, Pastor Mike.
Well, yeah, true. Danny Carr, I know you said something about the fentanyl. It's not traceable, or there's no way for them to tell. And as we're educating our people and coming from where you come from and just being honest, we know they're going to smoke it either way it goes.
Right.
What is there any signs or anything that we can tell them so that they can at least be aware that, I know, letting them know that it's out there, but without them being able to detect it, is there anything that you guys are doing to find out ways to detect it if it's in it before they get to it? Am I making sense with the fentanyl?
That is a great question. And I've been asked that before. That's a wonderful question. And one of the things is that I'm hoping that at some point, the Alabama Department of Forensic Sciences can come up with something that would be usable. Now, here's the bigger issue, though. The bigger issue is, on one hand, you have a test that they come up with. How does the test get to the people, right? How does the test get to a common guy who wants to go buy a dime bag of marijuana, which right now is illegal in Alabama, right?
Yeah.
But then number two, and more anything, is that the common user, let's say, if I was going to go buy a dime bag of marijuana, and I get it, and how they smell it, you're not going to smell that fentanyl on there. So it's not detectable. It's not detectable. Now, if you die from it, if they do an autopsy, they'll be able to see that you ingested it, and that's what your cause of death is. And if it goes to the Department of Forensic Sciences, which is required before someone is charged with a possession of an illegal drug, they have to come back and say, this drug is what it's purported to be. They will put on there green leafy substance, marijuana, they'll put how much, and then they'll say also fentanyl present as well. But at that point, hopefully it's not too late, because someone has either ingested it and died. But at this point, there is nothing that will allow you to detect it other than getting it to a scientist and letting them, perform whatever analysis that they do. Hopefully in the future, they get something done, or maybe they can at some point streamline it and this marijuana and figure out a way where if people want to use it, they can make it safe for everybody. I don't know, but right now it's not safe. Nothing on the street is safe.
And it's also something that gets included in the meth labs. Some of the
Right.
recipes for meth
Mm-hmm.
put the fentanyl in there. Same thing. You cannot tell until you die.
Right. That's right.
Wait
That's
a minute,
right.
you said nothing on the street is, what did you just say? On the
I don't think anything on the street is safe because, again, it's always a battle of who got the strongest stuff, the most potent stuff. Because every drug dealer, you got one on 2 blocks down, and you go 3 blocks over, there's one standing over there. Well, we're gonna go buy his stuff because you know how they talk in the street term. His stuff is he got the fire, whatever that means.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
strong. You know, he got the strong stuff. His stuff is weak. We're gonna buy from him. You know, and once you once you get that one high, then you start looking for the next bigger high, and then at some point you run into something that's called fentanyl, and it kills you. It kills you.
This is something also that we have to recognize has that demonic quality of rope-a-dope, get into this, that altered states of reality are better than everyday life and the struggles of life, and you keep trying to get more and more, and then it leads to this deadliness that nobody expected from marijuana back in the 60s, but now
Right.
it's permeating all over the place.
Right. Wow.
True, Daddy Carr. I want to ask you, man, I know with your initiative with the schools where you helping the kids out after they become absent and stuff of that nature. I remember in one meeting that we were in, you were explaining how when you get to some of these schools and find out the reasons behind the child being absent was not just because they didn't want to come to school, they didn't have clothes or things of that nature. Can you explain, like, what in terms, like, some of the schools, just me hearing it, the teacher sometimes they're not even taking the lead. Like, it's like, why is that in your ballpark? And they're so unaware. Are they under too much pressure, or are they just? Am I making sense about that part?
You are.
Okay.
One thing. Let me say this, Pastor. This is another teachable moment that people don't know. The law in Alabama says that the district attorney shall enforce school compulsory attendance. Nowhere else in the code of Alabama, it doesn't even say I shall prosecute murder cases. You have discretion, but it says you shall enforce school compulsory attendance. Now, but the legislative intent behind that law is that once that person has 7 unexcused absences, then they have a petition filed at family court, and then my office gets involved one way or the other based on that petition when they're in front of a judge. But to me, I felt like at that point, it's too late per se. So what we did was decide to do something creative. And let me say this, the Helping Families Initiative is now, thank God, in 2 or 3 other offices, which is good. And it was created a long time ago. It just wasn't initiated. Nobody ever, by a guy who was a board member in Mobile and also later became the district attorney. But here, what we realize is that we can help deal with the pipeline to prison. We can help families. We can help communities. We can help kids, and we can try to be that change we want to see. But the schools itself, mind you now, 2 unexcused absences, we sending letters to the house. And I'm gonna tell you something else. A byproduct of me sending letters to the house on my letterhead, the byproduct is this, and let's just be candid about it. You know, is that if a guy is at the house and he's dealing marijuana, doing his thing from the house, he don't want a letter with the DA letterhead coming to his house. He's gonna tell the wife, girl, somebody, this boy need to go to school. We don't need that heat. So even if a byproduct of it is, he read that and say, I don't want to see this again. He's going to be waking that child up saying, you need to go to school, son. We don't need this heat. So even if that helps, you know, then hey, you know, even if that helps, then we're still doing the job. But again, a byproduct of that is, why is the DA sending a letter to my house? And he started reading it, and he's like, hey, No, you need to go to school, son. We're not having that because he's doing stuff himself. And I can tell y'all this. I talked to a group of boys because I want to just address a couple of things right quick, if I can. One thing for the people who have young men that are in school, and I get asked this all the time. Please know, the age of consent is 16. Anything below 16, it is statutory rape. I just have to say that because I get asked that all the time. Meaning, 2 kids can be in high school, and that young boy can be charged with statutory rape. A young lady who is 16, is below 16, 15 or below, cannot consent to sex, period, no matter what. And there is no discretion. So I want people to understand that because oftentimes families will come and say, my son, they're both in school, she's 13 and he's 16 or, whatever. And they don't realize that is statutory rape, which means now he has to register as a sex offender. They have to do all this stuff that you have to do as a young man. So I tell people, just kind of be aware of that stuff and make sure you educate your kids on things of that nature. A second thing I want to mention real quick, aiding and abetting for the young people and the parents who are listening. You talk to your kids about this tonight as well. If your child is in the car and he knows that his buddy is about to go make a lick, about to go rob a store, and he go in there and rob that store and kill the store and run back out and they drive off, guess who else going to be charged with capital murder? The child that's sitting in the car being the lookout. Because the law says that if you're ready and willing to assist in any way, here's the key term, in any way, then you're treated just like the principal actor under the law in Alabama. It's important that people know that. My child didn't shoot nobody is not a defense to complicity, aiding and abetting. I just want people to know those 2 things because I get asked that a lot and talk. And so I always try to educate people on that the lookout is going to be treated just like the guy who pulls the trigger by law. That's the law. So make sure you understand that and tell your kids that and tell your daughter, don't be the lookout for some guy who's going in the store to do something stupid. All the things that I see in our communities all the time that frustrates me all the time. It's important that we know that and that we talk to our kids and educate them on those issues. It's important that we do that.
Okay, well, I guess we probably need to wind it up here.
Yeah.
We got to get you back again. Because you're saying a lot of things, and we got to get the public aware of it. This is one of the things that we as gatekeepers want to do is get more people aware of the importance of communicating with our elected officials, getting the information from you. And as you're saying, there's still some laws that I can see that are in Alabama that are not fair. They kind of come down without any consideration of all the other factors. And like you said, you got people who look at you like something's wrong with you because you're doing initiatives to help the community. It's very important. But we're going to probably have a meeting with, I'll probably bring the gatekeepers on several more next week so people can understand what our heart is for our community. But I want to give each one of you all, the 2 pastors, pastors, Father Mitch, an opportunity to have any questions, closing remarks they want to make. And then, Mr. DA, I definitely want to give you an opportunity. But let's start with Father Mitch. Is there something that you'd like to say in concluding right here as we get ready to end this program? So just chime in there, Father Mitch, just for a minute.
Yeah. District Attorney Carr, I have seen you before, at Bishop Lowe's church, Guiding Light Church, and the consistent message I hear from you on a wide variety of topics is that you want our community to be safe for everybody. And I just cannot tell you how impressed I've been from the beginning and remain impressed. And I'm glad that you're doing what you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Father.
I did those same sentiments. Father Mitch, Danny Carr, DA, Mr. DA. man, just keep going against the grain, man, and realizing that just because they're a criminal by paper don't mean they're criminal, and keep providing second chance opportunities and looking out for the little guys, man. My big ups on that, man, and know I'm praying for you. I know the gatekeepers are praying for you, and many more people are praying for you, man, and just continue to just push it, man. As they say, you're a hooper. Go hard in the paint, man. Go
Yes,
hard in
sir.
the paint.
Absolutely. Thank you, Pastor.
I think it's on you, Danny.
Oh, it's on me?
I think he wants you. I think so.
Yeah, that's right. Go ahead, Mr. DA. I want to give you an opportunity to have.
I just want to leave people with this thought. You know, talent is God given. Be humble. Fame is man given. Be grateful. Conceit is self given. Be careful. Life more persistent, urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Make sure that each and every day you do wake up every day to see what you can do to make somebody's life better. And I thank y'all for having me here, and thank you for listening.
Well, listen, I appreciate you, Mr. DA, and I've gotten to know you better. These two programs that we've done, we're going to definitely get you back. Like I said, there's a program that I've got a vision for called Rhetoric versus Reality. I'll be meeting with the gatekeepers. We're going to definitely get you back on and supply this information. Um, and get information out to the public so they can know. Father Mitch, thank you very much for being involved here, and I'll be talking with you later on this week, and so we'll see you. And then Pastor Mike, great to see you again. So and we'll be talking with you later on this week. God bless you, brother. Thank you so much. And Mr. DA, once again, I do thank you for the time that you've given to us. But I'm going to keep you online right here for a moment because I have said this to the people time and time again. We have got to wake up. We cannot be asleep as to what our leaders are doing or what our leaders are doing. We've got to be aware. We've got to be involved. And the organization that I'm a part of with the gatekeepers watching the gate to let you know, please, it's difficult for people like Mr. DA and a lot of the elected officials we have because politics is, it's always been said, a nasty business. And there's a lot of graft, there's a lot of corruption, there's a lot of greed associated with it. I take responsibility for our failure as men and women of God to be there to support people like Mr. Carr, Attorney Carr. And I want to take a role to help with some of the good people we have that are in leadership to help them stay the course. And it's with pastors too. Many pastors fall and they fail. The temptations are there for people that are in leadership. But we need you, the public, the general public, to be there to provide support and to know what's going on and hold us accountable. And we have to hold our political people accountable. I hope that what you all have seen tonight with the district attorney, he's doing a lot of things that he does not have to do. And I think, and I'm going to say this, um, our district attorney we have now has put together some programs because he's come from the community. We got to keep people that understand what's going on in the community. But you got to also recognize not everybody that's in office really knows what they're doing. I've talked to many of them, and some of them are just there because they have the ability to win a popularity contest. And there are some judges. They're like we talk about police officers that you say some are bad. Yes, some are bad, some are good. Some of the people that are in elected offices, some are bad, some are good. But it's our responsibility to hold them accountable as people who are voting. And so I want to encourage you to stay involved, stay attention, and what the gatekeepers will do is going to help you at least know what's going on. So once again, Mr. DA, thank you very much. I'm going to get ready to conclude it. And if I've said anything, you want to say another word, you jump in there at the point because I'm giving you that opportunity because the people need to hear from you.
And no, I just want to tell all the people in the comment section, thank you for the kind words. And again, and I'm here And if there is anything that I can do better or need to work on or think about, please let the bishop know, and he'll let me know. Trust me, he'll let me know. So please do that as well. I mean, again, I understand. I'm just God's vessel, and I'm here to be a servant. So I thank you, Bishop, again for allowing us to have this conversation part 2. And I see Dr. Jafrida Brown said part 3. So no, I appreciate everybody. Thank you. Thank you again. God
Okay.
bless you all.
Thank you, and for your time. We'd certainly appreciate it. Now, I'm going to speak to everybody once again. A part of what we're going to be doing, like I said, I'm going to add another program that I'm going to actually be uh, working with too. I've got Monday Night Live, and then there's Wednesday night Bible study that we're going to be having coming up. We're going to be talking about the Ten Commandments. I hope we'll end up on the fourth commandment this Wednesday night, but be looking forward for the one that we're going to do with the gatekeepers called Rhetoric versus Reality, where we're going to be talking to our political leaders and sharing the information with them, and at least trying to bring some light to the darkness that's in the world that we have. I'm very thankful for the Guiding Light Church that has been there, supportive. The people that are there, the Guiding Light now, I've spoken to them before. Yes, as a pastor, I've put a lot of challenges on them. It's because of what God is calling me to do and what I feel like I need to do that's for our community. And that's not understood a lot of times. But I appreciate the support that you all continue, the Guiding Light Church continues to do. And I want to ask for your continued help to realize that Guiding Light is a church that puts up with me, and I want to thank them for it. But I want to say to everyone that's watching, we have ways that we need your support, and there's the online giving. You got text to give and Cash App. So if you would just remember, uh, Guiding Light tolerates me as their bishop. I think many of them know the truth. They're listening to the truth. They're hearing it. But it is because of the people at Guiding Light I have an opportunity to bring such people to you that you've seen tonight, and you will be seeing a whole lot more. Thank you for your support. And to everyone, I ended up right now. Remember this one thing. Go back, take a look on YouTube. You will find the Gatekeepers Association out there. This video is there. You'll find it on YouTube with the Guiding Light Church. And thank all of you all for being involved. Get ready to hear more so that you can be informed. We will make our community better when we start getting even better people that are in leadership, that an organization is dependent upon its leader to move forward. God bless you all, and to all of the folk that know my parting words, you were created to excel and not fail. That is your divine potential. Thank you all for being involved, and I'll